Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten. I'm an executive recruiter, director of recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And you know it is my extreme pleasure to bring you fantastic guests all the time, and today is no different. We actually have an in-studio guest today. I'm so excited. So today on the show, I'd like to welcome Kent Billingsley, president and founder of the Revenue Growth Company, and author, and I'm going to mess this up, of Entrepreneur to Millionaire. Kent's focus is helping CEOs, business owners, and leaders dramatically scale sales, revenue, and profits while using the fewest resources possible doing it. And he is a repeat guest. So I'm sure you all caught him on our 100th episode when we were celebrating with our panel of experts talking about the future of hiring. So we're going to continue that conversation today. How are you doing, Kent?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get the chance to ask you this when you were on the panel for the 100th because we were trying to condense everything in.
Yeah.
But I really think it's important that we share with our audience the importance of networking. So how did you and I get connected?
So it was a year ago, March, and I was giving a keynote speech at Success North Dallas, and I believe you were in the audience, and I think you were the one asking the toughest questions.
Well, yeah, probably. But you know what? And I think if I remember correctly, I kind of used my influence, because, you know, I'm the chief of staff for Success North Dallas, to cut in front of the long line to get to you. And I was like, you have to come on our podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So
that's right. Yeah, that's how we connected.
Absolutely. And so you have this wonderful book. We were just talking a little bit before we came on about the release and the timing of the release. But one thing I really want to talk about is who wrote the foreword?
You know, you probably never heard of the guy. He's kind of quiet and demure and doesn't raise too much of a noise out there in the marketplace, but Mark Cuban.
Yes.
And matter of fact, he was just in the news today talking about Elon Musk buying Twitter. So yeah, Mark and I go back years and years and years. And so he read the manuscript, and the deal I had with him is he said, if I like the manuscript, I'll write the foreword. And that was years back that I set that up with him, and so I got the manuscript to him about a year and a half ago. He read it. He said, I like it. I said, do you want me to write the foreword and then you edit it and all that? He goes, no, I'll write the foreword, and that's what you're going to put in your book. And basically what's in the book is exactly the words in the email that he sent me after he read it. So it's yeah, it was fascinating. Even McGraw-Hill, the publisher, was like, well, we don't even need to edit this. This is good enough to go.
So there's a little excerpt on the front.
Okay.
And I don't have glasses on, so I can't read it.
Okay.
Can you read that one sentence? That
From Mark?
Cuban? Yeah.
I wish I had this book when I started my own company. And his point was, he'd probably be worth $8 billion today if he would have had this book. But his point was that there's just so many mistakes that we all make as entrepreneurs and business owners. And his thing is, you know, reading is really important. And he really stresses reading books and becoming smarter and trying to avoid mistakes. This learning how to fail or just keep making mistakes till you get it right, that doesn't work for anybody. Waste a lot of time and resources. And so he's very much, I knew him just after college. We went to the same college together, but I didn't know him there. I met him in the Village here in Dallas years back. And his whole premise was that, and the way he talks about it from the book is that all sales are not good sales. And you really got to focus on who are the right customers and how do you bring them in and how do you spend as little money doing it. The premise of the book is really about not how to start, run, and grow a business. There's 1,000 books and speakers on that subject. This book is trying to teach you, well, how do you make the most money with your business? How do you stop trading your products and services for dollars? And how do you actually leverage the value of what you offer? It's a very interesting concept because most people aren't comfortable with that and they don't understand it. So they just go about their day banging their heads against the wall, trying to get their product out there, trying to make money. And in reality, instead of pushing and fighting and going out after the market, get the market to come to you.
Absolutely. So let's go back a little bit in time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your career path and how you've grown to where you are now?
Yeah, I actually came down here in 1982. I spent 5 years with PepsiCo Frito-Lay and kind of worked through the ranks. And I kept hearing stories about this Ross Perot guy, and I didn't really understand what he did. But I said, I'm fascinated from his leadership. I have to go work for this guy. And so I went to work for Ross Perot years back in the mid-'80s. And then back in 1995, while working in the company, they had asked me to come in from the field and form a team and go out and look at their business units and not help them grow faster so much, but help them optimize. In other words, how do you get the top line growth with minimum resources? How are you faster to market? How do you increase profitability? And another thing was, how do we get better control of the business? In other words, how are we able to predict when we're going to make major contracts and sales? They had owned the market at that point. They had invented or created, Ross did, outsourcing. So they were the dominant player, but the competitors were coming at them from all angles, and they said, "Can't help us figure out how do we stay ahead of the game?" And so I did that 25 years ago, and I was fascinated. And here's what I learned and got me started, and still doing this today now, 25 years later, is almost all companies out there, businesses, whether you're a pure startup and you got a new product, or you're a billion-dollar company, there are so many more levels of growth and potential inside your company that you will never be able to tap or unlock on your own. It takes a third-party perspective. It takes somebody coming in from the outside to say, you know what, you might be the problem. You've got a cultural disconnect. You don't have the right processes. Your company's actually not designed to make the most money possible. It's only designed to deliver a product and service. And so that's the work I've been doing for the last 25 years. For the last 20, I've owned my own company. And today, working with manufacturing firms, charter schools, wealth management firms, I could just go down the list of several thousand companies in the last 20 years in about 38 countries.
That is amazing. That's quite a career. And I think it's amazing that you're able to take those strategies that you've come up with and put them into a book so concise that you're able to teach people how to repeat what you're doing in such a great way. And I remember you telling me when we first met, when we were just sitting down, just you and I talking, that it has been said that you have to read this book 3 times to really get it.
Yeah, and I've heard that many times. Or I've had clients say, "Ken, I've heard you say this 3 times, and it just didn't connect." And I think the reason for that is what I hear back after we talk through that is so many people are stuck in last century's paradigms. So many people are stuck in, this is just the way to do things. I'll give you a great example of, here's a classic. Well, you have to spend money to make money.
Yes.
Right? Sales is a numbers game. And I could go down, there's lots of myths in there, and I do a whole blog on myths, and there's these things that we've had them anchored in our brain, and they become part of our DNA, and they're falsehoods. No, you don't need to spend money to make money. You can make money without spending $1 if you can learn how, if you can follow a roadmap. And so it's interesting, the book in a way kind of took me 20 years to write, but it took me 20 years to prove and validate that the principles in the book can work for anybody, anywhere, anytime, any type of company. I'm working with a nonprofit right now, $80 million nonprofit. I'm working with a for-profit manufacturing company. I mean, we've got clients in our portfolio of all types and sizes that are following this roadmap in how to create wealth and create competitive positioning and not spend another $1 on marketing or hiring more salespeople. Now, you're a recruiter.
Yes.
You want them to hire more salespeople. I do too. And what's interesting is most companies have the right headcount, but they have the wrong people.
Yes.
And so our jobs, both of our jobs together, is how do we get them the right people? I just had lunch with a client yesterday. When I walked in their offices about 10 years ago, they had 1 salesperson, or they had 5 salespeople. They were making about $500,000. I asked him yesterday, I said, "What are you guys making today?" Because I rebuilt the sales force. I've worked with them for years, almost 10 years. He said, "We're going to do $10 million this year." And I said, "How many salespeople do you have now?" He goes, "We still have 1 you helped us hire a few years ago."
Wow.
1 salesperson is helping produce $10 million in revenue. They used to have 5 producing about $500,000.
I need to hire that person.
So, exactly. But and that's the point. And now, when they're looking for number 2 and they want to get to 20 million, I'm going to call you, and we're going to find that next person to put in there, that next talent. So
excellent.
But the reason you need to read this several times is you're going to hear things or read things and go, "Oh, I'm not comfortable with that," or "That's different." That's not what I've been told in the other 300 books I've read, or the company that's calling me every day or sending me things on LinkedIn. "I want to help you grow your business." Here's what's interesting. I don't want to help you grow your business. I want to help you grow revenue against your assets to create wealth. That's a completely different mindset. The reason, and I just did a webinar on this, is the reason is that companies, as they get bigger, they grow the top line, they increase the revenue. What's interesting is we watch their expenses and costs and all things just go right with it. And so there's this little itty bitty profit that's made and left over. And then they just spend years and years and years making a little bit more profit. And they're on this treadmill. And then this is why 98% of companies have cash struggles. They don't have enough cash on hand. They don't have any working capital. They have inconsistent cash flow, and they have greater receivables. That's not the joy of owning a business. That's the misery. And too many people, too many companies are living the stress, the toxicity, and just the pain of running a business, and especially with COVID and other, now supply chain and inflation. That's not how business should be. Business should be fun. It should be joyful. You should be bringing phenomenal value to your marketplace and kicking your competitors' butts.
Exactly.
Can I say that?
You can. So I'm curious, you know, we really speak to our job seekers and, you know, those that are in a role where maybe they're not completely satisfied, right?
Yeah.
So how would you apply, and I know you typically work with sales professionals, right?
All kinds.
All kinds.
Leadership, every position, C-level. I build teams of all types and sizes of startups to large corporations, yeah.
So how can people apply those sales skills today in any role?
Yeah. So if we dial back and not be salesy or be a salesperson where I'm trying to get something sold, that's the first thing we do. We deprogram thousands of salespeople and say, stop selling, shut up.
Right.
Nobody wants you. Nobody wants your
Nobody
sales
likes those cold calls. That's why you get hung up on.
Yeah, exactly. And so I want your audience that's thinking about a new job or interviewing, I want you to think of, don't even be a salesperson, be a business person. When you're going into an interview, don't go in to sell yourself and promote yourself and sell your background. No, go in there. The only reason you're actually having the meeting is there's a business problem. So when I'm hiring somebody, I'm looking at that individual, if they're a salesperson or whomever, and I'm saying, I can read what you've done, you can tell me about your background, but help me understand how you're going to solve the problem I have right now. I have an open head count, or I'm trying to grow, or I'm missing an engineering person or something. I've got a business problem. You need to present who you are and what you do to solve the business problem. Now, when we look at it from a business standpoint, one of the things that we discuss or talk about that salespeople don't is risk. The hiring manager is looking at the person saying, okay, I like all this and I see what you've got and what you can offer me, but you also represent risk. Talk through with me how you as a candidate are going to manage the risk of coming on board and becoming productive and making sure I eventually get a return on the investment in you. For example, and I talk about this in the book, if you're a salesperson trying to get a job, I've never met a salesperson that could tell me how many categories of cost they're going to bring to a company. It's 8 categories of costs. So as a hiring manager, I'm looking at the salesperson that's now interviewing with me, and I'm looking at you going, dollar signs. How fast will you be productive? How fast can you turn revenue? How fast can you make me money? Because if you fail, like 98% of all first sales hires, those are sunk costs and sunk time I'll never get back. So that person on the other side, the person that's interviewing, they've got to talk through how they're going to help solve the business problem. They're going to bring both value and risk and help manage that risk. And when they can position it that way, now all of a sudden the hiring manager, either that person or up above who's got to sign off on the head count, can look at that and go, here's where I get my ROI. Here's how I can manage my risk of hiring, because you know the disaster that happens when there's a wrong hire, it affects everybody.
Yes.
And it's painful. And now the company's got a problem. The person that got fired has a problem.
The recruiter has a problem if we're in our guarantee period.
That's right. Yeah, you got to replace. And you got to start all over, and now you got to get double work for.
And now you're working for free because you're doing a free replacement.
Yeah, and so I want them to be sales in the sense of if pure sales is solving a business problem and that's your focus, and not closing the sale as your goal. If your focus is, let me just understand your problem. What are you most worried about? Is it the risk? Is it the return? Is it how soon can I bring value? If you'll approach it like that from a old school sales standpoint, where you're not putting yourself first or just trying to get the hire, then great things can happen.
You know, one of my mentors always tells me, okay, let me make sure I'm going to get this right. Stop acting like a seller and start thinking like a buyer. And I think that's what I'm hearing when you're saying that, is you're like, really put yourself in their shoes. Don't try to sell yourself first. Don't say me, but go into it so that you can see how you can solve that problem for the business.
Yeah, exactly, because you're at a buying situation, and again, the buyer is in that situation because they have a problem. They have an open head count. They have production's not getting satisfied. They have sales that aren't being made. Something, and so yeah, present that. Now, having said that, let me give you the other side because this is real important. Because the mistake I see that most candidates make is they sell what they've done, or they sell what they've been, or they sell their title or role. Stop. You've already lost me, right? When I read through a resume, there's two things I look for. I look at the dates of, I've hired thousands, I've helped hire tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 through my clients. I look at the dates. How often have they been different places?
Yep.
Because the first thing that makes me nervous is people that jump around and skip around. The second thing I look for in a resume, and this is going to be really crazy here, I look at numbers, statistics, dollars. I look at financial specific impact. If that's not on there, this stuff is fluff, and this is something I've been saying for years. I think the resume is the greatest form of false advertising in the world.
Oh, can I get a high five on that? Yes.
It's garbage.
Bull.
And it's garbage.
Like job descriptions are bull.
Well, yeah, they're cut and paste, and
Yes.
now with title inflation, oh, you were president of your last 3 companies, and that's why you got fired. Okay. So I look through there, and I check real quickly for specificity. If it's not in there, I don't know if it's going to be worth the time to talk to them. Because if they don't know the impact they had on their last employer, there's no way they're going to understand the impact they can have with me.
Absolutely. We call that made, saved, achieved.
Okay.
And that's what we really look for. But I will be completely honest with you. The resumes I've been getting lately have been horrendous.
Yeah.
And I have been highly recommending that candidates go to a certified resume writer. And that's a thing. There's a real designation, a class, everything for that. And tell them your story because they're going to pull that information out of you, and they're going to put it like they know where it needs to go on the resume, and that's going to help you stand out from other people that are applying, but also, get the attention of the hiring manager.
Yeah, let me go ahead and coach your audience right now. Here's how to do that: is you just put down and say, I had this role or I had this job for 2 or 3 years, and my question is, so what? And what financial impact did you have on the company? And I'm very important, and let me lay that out to be real clear here. When I say what financial impact did you have on the company, how much money did you help the company make, or how much money did you help the company save? If you don't know or don't understand that, then you really don't know how you're adding value to a company, because everyone in the company today must add or save money to the business. And if not, you have to wonder about the role.
I think I spend a lot of money for VIP. I don't think they're real sure what their ROI is yet.
But what's interesting is, see, the candidates don't make the job easy for the hiring manager. They make it difficult. So now all of a sudden, even through stack ranking and all the other stuff, and some of the things we teach, not stack ranking, we do other things. But now all of a sudden, you've got like 5 resumes. It's like, how do I choose? And now we're going to look back at, well, who brings impact? Who's brought results? Who can bring tangible or measurable value? That lowers risk. That's a better hire than somebody that's got the fluffy resume or all the references and things like that. So,
okay. So you recently wrote a post, and I wanted to read this verbatim, called "Your Biggest Sales Problem is Not Your Sales People," in which you describe that managers often blame the salespeople for sales problems. And, why do so many leaders do that? Why do they blame, the attack the person and not the cause? And I love that article because I am a salesperson.
Right. So a couple of things there. First of all, they're not a leader. They're a manager. So right out of the gate, they've got a problem. And a leader looks at the big picture and understands all the parts and pieces. A manager looks down and looks at the person and goes, man, it's just not working. It must be you.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so when we teach systems thinking and when we help companies understand it's a system at the end of the day, and my phone typically rings because there's a marketing problem or sales problem or a growth problem. I go in there and I ask some questions, I look around, and they'll say, well, I got a problem with my sales team, or my marketing's not working, or something's happening. And it's interesting, that's almost always a symptom.
Okay.
The salesperson that's not hitting their numbers, the salesperson that's struggling. And what's interesting is I step back, and once we do further analysis or maybe a formal assessment, we uncover, well, you know what, you're actually calling on the wrong marketplace. Your messaging is mushy. You've got the wrong business model. I mean, you've never framed the FMP as I talk about in the book. there's so many mistakes you've made in revenue ready and market ready, which are phases in my book, that now that you're in go-to-market with one of the most expensive assets you have in a company, a salesperson with those 8 categories of cost and sometimes a base salary of $100,000, $150,000, we're talking $500,000 to $1 million worth of expense and investment, and yet they're set up for failure. And yet, what I have just found fascinating in my 25, 30 years of optimizing, growing companies is 98% of all interventions are people related. Fix you, train you, torture you, turn you. When only 1% of the time is it actually ever the person. Well, what if I've got a really bad salesperson? I go, your system let them in. What if my salesperson's not motivated? I go, I bet it's comp. I bet it's the reward system that doesn't have them motivated. It's always, almost always something. Now, are there bad apples? Yeah, I've run pretty large sales organizations. I've had the person that becomes the alcoholic. I had the person going through the divorce and disappears. I've had the addiction, but I've helped them through those things. I've helped them get through that. But I made sure my system brought in the best people possible. But when somebody goes off the rails or somebody has a problem, 1% of the time, they do need an intervention that can help them. I've sent people to AA, I've sent people to addiction, and I've said, look, here's the deal, you're gonna go to this recovery process, and if you pass it, graduate, you can come back. If you don't, go away. But it's so rare. I could say like maybe 1 in 1,000. But in almost all cases, when we're talking about the salesperson, and I came up through the sales ranks of companies. I just remember what times I was set up for success, but most of the time I was set up for failure. And it was so frustrating, and I had to win in spite of the company, and that's not how it should be.
And then they took credit.
Oh, always. And that's not how it should be. And we should build the company. Oh, here's another mistake that's made is we put salespeople at the center of the universe. In other words, we make the salesperson basically responsible for the success and growth of the company. That is a completely flawed model, but it's a very popular model from last century. And the reason it's flawed today, and it wasn't in the past, is most companies today are in complex sales, not simple sales.
Okay.
And so in complex sales, complex sales is meaning like you have competencies like the ability to navigate through corporations, the ability to find influencers versus decision makers. There's a lot of very important competencies. And I used to say 1 in 1,000 salespeople today have all the competencies for a complex sale. Today it's gotten worse. It's about 1 in 2,500. Yeah. So what I mean by that, and what's important for salespeople and people that are hiring salespeople, is that if they are the center of the universe, your company's success is basically resting on the shoulders of people who are incompetent. That's not good. No. It sets them up for failure and sets you up for failure. Or failure another way, because people go, well, we're growing, we're doing okay. Inconsistencies. Yes. And here's a great example. 97% of all forecasting is a joke. It's voodoo, it's silly, it's waste of time, because that's a competency, and they've never been taught or trained how do you act. And I have a whole chapter in there about not pipeline management, pipeline acceleration, because the ultimate competency is not getting people into the pipeline, filling it with prospects, the pregnant pipeline that never goes anywhere. The real competency is how fast does someone go into the pipeline and then become a customer or client. It's the speed that's the competency. And that's one of the things we measure for, that's one of the things we develop for. You can't train that. You train skills, but you develop for competencies. That's another huge mistake out here, is all this money and time spent on sales training, they're not skills anymore, not in complex sales. They're competencies, which are clusters of skills. Okay. For an example, a boardroom presentation, whether it's the first presentation or the final presentation, there are basically 15 skill sets required for a boardroom presentation. Some can be trained, but they've got to be measured by proficiency, not the skill itself, if that makes sense. And so a competency is the ability to do a repeatable result and consistently. Yet most sales organizations, they're not developed in that way. It's more just throw them out there and see what sticks.
Okay, I have 2 questions for you.
I was going to say, I could go on for
I have 2 questions. Okay, so number 1, if I'm a hiring manager, a company, not necessarily an entrepreneur, do I want to read this book?
Oh my gosh, yes you do, because a couple of reasons. One of them is that book is going to help you understand And that could be CEO to millionaire, it could be employee to millionaire, it could be leader to millionaire. I just picked entrepreneur because it's a key word that everybody loves. Okay.
And I can't pronounce very well.
You can replace that word with anything, and what it's going to do is it's going to teach you how to bring more value to your company. Because every company now today is saying, how do we make more from less, not more from more? And so if you can play a role in helping your company generate more sales, revenue, and profits using less time and resources, you bring tremendous value. That's the first reason for anybody and everybody. As an employee, you want to be part of a company that's driven to make as much money as possible to reward you and compensate you for your value. But here's the thing for the hiring manager. There is a whole chapter, and I could have written probably 3 books on this topic, and I call it talent optimization. And if you're a hiring manager or a leader today and you don't understand these 4 parts of this system regarding talent, first, never hire another employee, only talent. And I explain what talent is, and I explain how to measure it. Those are the first 2 things, and most HR departments don't understand that. But it's a system if you really want to be interviewing talent, not just who you can get. It starts with attraction. If you're not attracting top talent, then you're not hiring top talent. In most cases, they're not. Second is how do we attract and how do we acclimate? So now forget the onboarding. How do we really bring them into our culture? How do we really develop their competency? There is no one you will hire that will have every competency you need. It's impossible. So now your acclimation program must develop that competency. And if it's not skills training, not sending them off to class for a week or onboarding. This is truly acclimation to perform at the highest levels. This can take a few weeks to, I was in EDS acclimation program, it was 13 months.
Wow.
I wasn't allowed to make a sales call for 13 months because they were developing every skill set from dress to dining to negotiating to selling to boardroom presence. I mean, the whole thing, they wouldn't let you go out until you had all those competencies. And the third part that you must understand as a leader or as a hiring manager is attraction, acclimation, development. Okay, what's that? That's ongoing. So there's an acclimation where you develop them to be proficient, but then they should constantly be developing you forever. There should always be programs, and there should always be things they can be giving you, and you should be doing it on your own, as well as there should be corporate development, or even for small companies sending you to the right webinars and seminars, anything to constantly be developing you, because these competencies are evolving and changing so fast. And then the last part and the key part, this is always a mess in every company, and I go in and fix it. I've rewired the last 500 comp programs I've looked at. So after attraction, acclimation, development, care. Now, care is not just compensation in dollars, but care is actually 3 things. It's rewards, recognition, and reinforcement. As a leader, you have to understand all 3. And if you don't understand all 3, you're probably overpaying. Your salaries are probably too high. A lot of people, your talent isn't going to come for the money. They're going to come from the package. They're going to come for, if I produce, what's in it for me? Too many managers, they're overpaying in salaries today. I ran a very successful software firm back over here. I took them from $2 million to $38 million in 2.5 years. When I hired people, almost, I'd say 70% had to take a pay cut to come work for me. But my package was triple what they could earn anywhere else. So you produce, you've got the goods, you're going to make a lot of money. If you're a pretender or a player and gamer, first of all, you probably wouldn't get through my system. But the second is you're not going to be able to produce any money. What were the results? Well, I had 3 people in 1 year make more than $1 million in software sales. And I tell you what, I had a lot of CEOs and friends tell me, that's ridiculous. You never want to pay that much money. I said, why not? I have no attraction issues now. I have every major software salesperson in the world wanting to work for me.
Right.
HR never had to go source, but I still use recruiters. And here's how I use recruiters. I'll tell you. I hope you appreciate this. I would call recruiters. I'd call down in Austin or down in here in Dallas, but I used a lot out of Houston. I'd say, here's the deal. You don't have to do any work. All you have to do is get me a coffee with the top player over at BMC Harris, Tivoli, HP, one of these. I'd pick the company, and I'd get the name, or I'd have you get the name. Get me a coffee with them. I'll go manage them to close them, right? And out of 17 proposals, I got 15 people hired.
Wow.
I'll bring them in, and I'll pay you your full fees. All you have to do is make the introduction, because I'm going to go have a talk with them and talk about what do you want to do with your career? Are you in this to be incredibly successful, and to make a lot of money for the firm comes first, and if so, we can work together. But here's the rule, you gotta work in my system. Because I've spent decades around the world proving my system. What were the results? In 3 years in a public software company, we had a 96% win rate.
Wow,
3
that's
years,
incredible.
96%, 48 out of 50 major deals. And I only say that because I'm trying to impress your audience to say, this system is so powerful. How you attract, how you acclimate, how you develop, how you care. You've got to have all 4 parts, and your system is only as good as the weakest part. But if you'll put those in place, and it's in the book, you've got to read those things, because if your competitors are, and they know how to attract talent, I stole the best software salespeople at every company. I stole them away. I just cherry picked them. and real quick, recruiters were calling my people every day. Now that would bother most people. I took that as a badge of honor. If you're not calling my people trying to steal them, I probably don't have the best people.
Right, for sure, for sure. So, oh my gosh, that's so much information. Where's the best place to find the book?
Yeah, go to Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble locally. It's now in ebook, so it's in hardbound, it's an ebook, and it's also on Audible for those people. And I have a lot of clients now. It's fascinating, and prospects or friends. They're actually listening to it while they're reading it.
That's a new trend. It really is a thing, and it seems to work really well for absorption.
Yeah, and to take notes, to capture the notes in the book as you're listening, and know exactly where it is in there, because these are not tips and tricks. This is a phased approach. It's sequential principles. There are a lot of formulas in there. There's a lot of processes. There's a lot of tools in there. I've spent 20 years proving that you've got to have in your toolkit today. If not, you are not ready to compete.
Okay, so I'm reading the book right now. Okay. I highly recommend everybody else go read the book, go get the book, go read it 3 times. But now, it's time for the zingers.
Okay. Let me sit down.
So this has been amazing. I knew it was going to be. So thank you so much for all that information. I know that people are going to have to go back and listen to this 3 times because there was just so much information.
I really want to help them. I really want to teach them. My mission in that is to help 1 million entrepreneurs and employees become millionaires.
That's a great.
So I appreciate your help doing this.
Absolutely. I may be one of them.
You will be one.
I will be one of them. So, but until then, if you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what 3 things or people would you take with you?
Oh, people. Well, gosh, if I wouldn't say my wife, I better not go home tonight. So, my wife, a doctor and a botanist.
Why the doctor?
In case I get ill or something happens. Health.
Okay.
If you don't have your health, it's over. You could be
on
any planet. Yeah, and then the botanist to grow food.
Absolutely. I totally get that one. So I'm surprised you didn't say Elon Musk after talking about him earlier.
I don't know him.
You're only taking people you know, right?
I might use his spaceship to get there.
There you go.
Yeah.
And to get back.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to come back in
That's right. And I talk about in the book that's an FMP, is how do we get to Mars? And the issue is, how do we learn to hibernate people? That's almost the only way.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you just can't carry the food and water to transport a team for that time and the weight. So if we can learn to hibernate.
Like a bear.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now I'm super curious about this because you are so successful.
Oh, thank you.
So what is one thing you do each morning to set your day up for success?
So it depends on the day. I do look at the stock market to see what's going on in the world. I do read some quick news. I do look at sometimes the YouTube channels to see how things are going. I also look at my emails to see what events we have coming up that Heather's putting together. So I kind of do a scan of where things are, and then kind of plot the day of what do I need to get accomplished, and kind of break it into parts. So I have the company work I'm doing, the revenue growth company, the programs we're launching, the events, and then I have 3 LLCs. So I have other companies. I have an investment company, and then I have the glamping business, which is about air tents. And
You've got it. What's the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's Intents, INTENTS, glamping. That's the YouTube channel. It's intenseglampingusa.com is the website, but it's 5 years ago, I bought a tent from Europe that didn't have poles. It has air tubes, inflatable tubes. I think I now have 11 tents.
Oh my goodness.
I've arguably, somebody told me I'm America's expert on inflatable tents from Europe, because in America they don't sell inflatable tents, they don't sell tents with windows, they don't sell tents that you can seal up and put an air conditioner in and or a heater in the wintertime. And so I've just started doing this channel, and then one video blew up 500,000 views in about a year and made me a YouTuber. So
See, you do have fun.
you know, you gotta have fun. You know, if you're not, go do something else.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're, you can be fuddy but not duddy. That's kind of my rule.
I love that. Okay, my final question for you. This has been great. I think I like these questions better than the other ones. And I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like for you to say it once more.
Okay.
If your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
I'd probably give you the title of just teacher.
Oh, interesting.
My dad was a school administrator.
Okay.
And probably the greatest joy he got, he didn't make a lot of money, was just giving back and teaching people. I think that's what I do.
You do that, and you do it very well. Thank you. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, probably info@revenuegrowthcompany.com. That's going to be the easiest way. And then through the website, revenuegrowthcompany.com. You want to read my blogs, you want to get my articles. We're launching programs right now. We're coming out with new group programs that are like, there's 15 to 20 elements that make them superior to a lot of the monthly group programs that are out there. And the results are guaranteed, which is insane.
You can't beat
They're
that.
affordable. I mean, you just really want to learn. You want to reach out to Heather at revenuegrowthcompany.com and learn about these programs. If you're serious about your business, if you're serious as a hiring manager, you're serious about getting on with a company that's really following these principles, that really wants to bring the most value to the marketplace and be paid for doing it, you want to be in that type of company. And because we look for people, entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, they're aspirational, they're driven, and thirsty learners. I was having lunch with this guy yesterday, and I said, the one thing about you and the CEO is every meeting I've had with you guys, you were taking copious notes. He goes, you can never learn too much.
There you go. I think that is a great statement to end this podcast on. So Kent, I just have one last thing to say to you.
Yes.
You are a VIP.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.